And hello and good morning, everyone. How you doing today? I grew a couple inches, looks like. All I did is adjust my camera a little bit, but it's good to have you here. Hello. Hopefully you're having a wonderful morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever this day may find you. My name is Paul Tranny. I'm going to dive into today's daily creative challenge. That's right. Good morning. Hello. Hello, everyone. Awesome. So it's good to have you here. We're going to tackle, we're going through actually a little passport of Photoshop and our little travel around the world, essentially, is what we're doing virtually, right? So today, in fact, we're going to go to Petra, Jordan. Why not? We're going to play with some of these photos, typically with landmarks, especially. A lot of people are there. How do you remove people? How do you brighten up photos? Where's the easy button as well in Photoshop? So that's what we're going to cover today. A lot of it's in Camera Raw, okay? So, hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. All right, let's undo this craziness that was currently on my desktop and switch over, shall we? Okay, awesome. And again, I want to go to Petra, Jordan. I would love to go there. I mean, who wouldn't want to? When I was little, I wanted to be an archaeologist. I basically wanted to be Indiana Jones. So that really kind of speaks to me. But here's the link. And if you're joining me elsewhere, again, just go over to advanced.net/Adobe Live. Hang out with me today. Amir, I see you there. Rob, nice to see my friends here. I want to know if anybody's actually been to Jordan, maybe specifically Petra, but I'm curious. I've only been to the airport in Jordan. Camera Raw Filter, make an image brighter, bolder, and more professional using Camera Raw filters. Or Camera Raw Filter. We could do everything in basically one filter. So get started with a file here, right? We can see this one, Camera Raw, actually has a couple of images in it. So we'll switch over. Here I am in Photoshop, okay? Gus is in the house. Good to see you, Gus. What's up, buddy? I miss you, man. I miss everybody. I do. I'm not kidding. Right? That's why everything's based around travel and getting to see people and stuff like that. Now, in this particular file, though, we have 3 different layers. We have Petra, we have Cliff, we have Sunset. So you can play with any one of these images that you want. I'm going to use this one here, right? This Petra image. Okay, and you can already see that it's dark. There's people in my way. Right, and I need to go ahead and clean it up. Sig Brown, is there a Jordan, Tennessee? I don't know. I should have. Yeah, when I was little, when I was little for Halloween, I dressed up as Indiana Jones, and I put lotion on my face, and then I put coffee grounds on my face to make it look like I had scruff like Indiana Jones. So I was walking around with, I'm sure it looked like dirt on my face just to simulate a cool scruff like Indiana Jones. And I just remember tasting coffee all day. Okay, so what you would think is you would typically go in here and you'd be like, oh, I want to add some brightness and contrast, right? So you'd add one of these adjustment layers is one thing you could do, right? You could try levels, for instance, right? And you can click auto and see if that brightens it up, right? And then you'll go in here again and you'll say, okay, well, let me kind of make it more vibrant. So we'll add a vibrance adjustment layer. So this is what people will typically do because this is what they know, right? And you'll end up with a number of layers. We'll do a photo filter and kind of warm it up, by the way. So right in here, here's a warming filter. Let's kind of make it a little bit more intense. Okay, so you have 3 different adjustment layers really for one thing, right? We can go, we can alleviate all that by getting rid of all those layers, right? Going back to just this Petra image. And the first thing I do is I create, turn this into a smart object. Okay, so right in here, let's make this a smart object. Now this protects it. Technically, it makes it another file, right? So if I double click on it, here's a PSB that lives somewhere magically on my hard drive that you could always find by going to Reveal in Finder. But the thing is, it protects it. And now what we can do is we can go to Filter, right up here to Camera Raw Filter. Okay? Nadia, Robzilla, good to see you guys. Steve's in the house. Oh, Good to see you guys. All right, fantastic. Here I am in Camera Raw. We've actually sort of redesigned the interface back in June. So typically you'll have your thumbnails off to the side. They'll typically, you can move those around. Everything's off to the side. Everything is contextual now as well. So I'll get into that in a second. But like I said, if there's an easy button, I usually go right over here to auto, right? So check this out. I can go right over here. Rather than adjusting, and by the way, before I hit that auto button, here are basically my adjustment layers that I added. Everything that it did is off to the side right here. So I can increase the exposure, right? Here's my vibrance, right? Increasing the vibrance, maybe just brightening up the shadows like I'm doing right now, okay? Making it a little warmer as well. I'm doing just by these sliders. So it's one filter that does everything for me, okay? By the way, magic button. Do you guys know about this? So this is really cool. I could be like, hey, what does this look like before you did all those changes? I can turn off that eyeball. So we have our before and then our after, okay? Our before and then our after. Another thing you can do, rather than just turning it off, hold down the Option key will give you reset. So did you know that, Mia? Like for a lot of those dialogues, especially if they're a modal dialogue in Photoshop and you want to just change it to, you want to reset the settings, hold down the Option key, it will change the cancel button to a reset button. So there we can do a quick reset and, you know, start again, right? But again, we love auto buttons. Sounds like Mia does as well. I do as well. I'll always start with auto. I'll click auto. It makes all these changes right here. It brightens up the photo, right? And then let's see. Okay. Right down here, by the way, I can do a before and after as well. Since I have these two images, or this one image, I can now split it so we can start to compare it to the original and see that magic happen, okay? So right over here, you know, again, I'll increase the exposure. I really don't want to increase the exposure for everything. I really want to just kind of brighten up this area down here, right? There's a number of ways we can do that. We can use a graduated filter. It graduated. It didn't gradate, even though it is a gradation. It graduated. And we also have right down here, Radial Filter, and right up here we have an adjustment brush. So you can use a number of these, right? If we use a graduated filter, we can go in here and we can draw, like zip, zip, have it graduate, increase the exposure, and we're just increasing the exposure of that bottom part of this photo. And guess what? I can always move it, so that's fun. All right. Yes, exactly, a reset. Imagine that. I love this though, by the way. If you start to take a look, I can go through all of these settings and you might think that some options have disappeared, by the way. Like there is the, you know, you want to sort of find the white balance. It was actually an option in the top bar, by the way. But right in here, we can go into white balance, click right here, pick that white spot or whatever as I kind of click around, and obviously it's changing the temperature, right? So we'll just go back to auto like so. Actually, I'm gonna warm it up a little bit more. All right, cool. Problem is, next thing we have is these lovely people. I'm sure they're great people. He's a great guy, you know, he's just keeping to himself. He doesn't mean any trouble, right? He's keeping to himself. But we honestly kind of want to remove him from the image, right? We have those content aware removal tools, right? As I drink some coffee. In Photoshop, right? But we also have those in Camera Raw. So right over here, look at this little thing that looks like a Band-Aid. Oh, it's a Band-Aid. Oh, spot removal, right? And again, let's just use my open bracket to increase or decrease closing bracket. Actually, I had that reversed. Closing bracket to make it larger, but in essence, I can go ahead and just paint over him, and it automatically samples from this other area. right? This is the great thing about that is as I do this, like, okay, I'm sure she's a great person, but you know, it's like, lady, you're kind of in my shot. I know you came in on my tour, the same tour bus, and this is why this happens on so many occasions when you go to any place worth going. It's like there's plenty of other people out there, right? It samples like so. It might get a little tricky right over here, and by the way, I can move these samples. It did an excellent job, might I add. Look, it actually grabbed that spot. I can change it to a different spot, right? But I want to keep that sort of in line right there. I'm just so impressed that it actually grabbed that, that exact line. I mean, is that not impressive or what? So, see right over here, we have all these settings. There's heal and then there's clone, by the way. If I change this to clone, it's cloning, so it'll actually do a direct clone of that area. Healing does more of a blend, so it keeps the tones, keeps the color, keeps the sort of the saturation level, I guess, the brightness, and all that. But again, we set it to heal, we do that, and now we can move on. This one's going to be much more difficult. It's going to be very difficult. Let's undo that. Let's switch this back to single view. Okay, so we can see this nice and large. And let's try this, shall we? Let's try to grab this person and this person. That guy's doing his best, explaining what's going on. This lady's not paying attention. This person's kind of antisocial, which is okay. It is okay. Right, and now we can sample from this area over here. It's not going to be perfect. I would probably sort of break this out into a separate layer to get that right, to be honest with you. But there it is. And let's just zoom back out. And let's go over to these people right over here. So we're doing all this in one filter, by the way. Is it worth starting using Photoshop Camera Raw? Oh, I don't know. I don't know what you are talking about. Exactly. Where do those people go? Where do they go? They just went back. It got too hot out. They went back to the tour bus. They're perfectly fine. These people are already heading to the tour bus. They're like, whatever. Over it. That's essentially what they're saying. We're over it. We're out of here. But again, I love this ability to sample a different area entirely, right? To move that around, to get it right. And I used to be J, and J is no longer that tool. So I am so sorry. Is it Command J? Oh yeah, it is J. Okay, you hit J. I feel like it's switching to the radial filter is what it's doing. But basically, it hides those lines. I gotta see if there's a different shortcut for that. Right, kind of panning around. Everything looks good. I can try to grab this. So this would be really difficult. I would probably actually go in and do some heavier Photoshop work right in here because this is going to be really difficult. Even though Camera Raw is awesome, it does the majority of the work. Some parts might be a little bit more difficult. So let's add a little bit more clarity right in here, right? And we can add more texture as well. So as we add that texture, you can see it's really making that, it's giving me the detail that I want, right? As I add that texture. Like so, right? I just think that looks pretty darn cool. I actually want to kind of warm it up some more up here. I can use another gradated filter up here and drag it down, shift the temperature, right? And the tint slightly, take down the exposure a little bit. See what I'm doing? And again, just adjusting that like so. You get the idea. Right now I have two graduated filters. Oh, cool. Colleen, you always start with Camera Raw when you open an image. That is awesome. I will often do that too. I'll automatically go to the auto button and do what I need to. Click OK, right? We can go ahead and see our lovely image. The nice thing is right over here. I'll twirl this down. Camera Raw filter is right there, applied as a filter, so I can say, here's the before, and then here's the after. So what you could always do is Command J to jump that layer, right? So we could we could play around with a couple of different versions. So right over here, I will go down here to presets, and for the presets, which is also something I could have selected before, let's split this again, shall we? There we go. I'm just going to roll over. Ooh, bright. That's what I'm going for. That's what I needed to do the whole time, is just make it brighter, right? Bright, high contrast. We're going to get into the creative ones as I start to roll through these, right? Warm shadows might work. And then we get into some of the fun black and white ones. Ooh, sepia tone. I don't know. I kind of like the black and white landscape because that's kind of what it is, right? And we can go in and tweak this as well. Cool. So this is really cool. We click OK. There it is. Here's our black and white version. Right now we can have some fun with this in other ways. Yeah. So I guess cool. That's the cool thing about Camera Raw, is actually it does everything for you, and you get done pretty quickly, right? Because again, everything is kind of squared away now. We can talk about making an image look better, just like the description says for this session, by the way. If we go back in here, we want to make images brighter, bolder, and more professional using Camera Raw filters. We're using Camera Raw. A lot of times you can always go back in and add, say for instance, any one of these other photo filters, and you could basically use a combination of adjustment layers and Camera Raw. So right in here, I'd go to color lookup, to be honest with you, and I'd go in here and I'd say, hey, what does 2-strip look like, right? And I'd go to a camera brand like this Fuji Eternia 250D, right? See how it just makes that even look more electric, right? Or just, I don't know, bolder, essentially, is what's happening. Right, so I can use those in combination. Let's go to some of these other images, because this image, for instance, has this haziness going on. This could be pretty complex, right? Photoshop should make you, well, actually it shouldn't make you feel like a cheater. You know, you like the black and white? Okay, good. You can use a raw photo as well. If you take a bunch of raw photos and try to open them up in Photoshop, it will typically open up them all in Camera Raw, and then before you bring them into Photoshop, right? So right in here, we could do a number of things. Okay, let's actually isolate this guy. So I'll do a Command J just to jump this layer. I'll go right over here to remove background just to see what happens. Oh yeah, it removed most of the background, but it also removed the rocks down here. So let me grab the quick selection tool. Let's just delete that layer mask altogether. I'm just going to use the quick selection tool, right? Or what I can do is I could use not select subject. Let's deselect that. We want to go in and we want to do object selection. This is set to lasso. I'm going to do this really fast since I have more time. This is awesome. Go in here and just grab that lower portion, the lower left, as you can see, right? Using object selection, because it makes my life easier. There we go. I can grab a little bit more of this as well. Let's grab a little bit more of that. So remove some of this right here. I'm going to do this really fast, guys. I hope you don't mind. Right, because we're going to isolate the foreground from the background. And we're going to have so much fun with the background. It's going to be a blast. Right, okay, let's go in here. Let's hold down the plus key. Just grab it. Just grab those pixels, Paul. Come on, you could do it. Get those pixels. I did it again. Oh, that's my problem. I need to remove. There we go. That's my problem. Sometimes if I'm really zoomed in on something, I actually don't know if I'm adding or subtracting to whatever I'm selecting. Does anybody else have that problem? Like, oh, I'm adding. No, I need to add to this. Subtract here by holding down the Alt key, right? Add this highlight, and we're done. Okay, so isolate. Bam, there he is. Background, done. Smart object for that background, right? We'll go into Camera Raw filter. right, for this guy. And what do? We do our auto button. Boom. Go down here. We'll typically go into like a dehaze because it's pretty hazy. Take that dehaze, drag it up, and you can see it makes it look a lot more clear. Okay. Oh, thank you, Matt. You're making me feel better. We're friends. Okay, we are friends. If you're always doing that, I'm like, I'm always doing that as well. Add a little bit more texture. We're just making this look magical. Like, look at the punch it gives it already just by working with dehaze right here on these panoramic scenes, which I think is pretty cool. We can always take up the texture, the clarity. Clarity actually is making it a little bit dark. We can increase the texture. You guys get the idea. I think that looks pretty good overall. Yeah. Let's go into effects. Let's give it some vignetting. Why not? Drag it the other direction like so. Kind of looks like a photograph. And yeah, everything else looks pretty good. I could tweak this all day long. Also right up here, I wanted to show if I wanted to adjust or bring out more of, say, the reds in that background, right? We can click to edit the red channel, and also right here, we have the targeted adjustment tool. So we could use that, target those trees right there, which are like a little bit more red, and drag that up. So yeah, I'm using that targeted adjustment tool to sort of either bring it up or down, honestly. It's not kind of giving me the pop I want. I'm going to bring that down like so. Anyways, I'm just playing around with some of the color right in here. Actually, it looks better with more green. Okay. I'd say that looks pretty good, right? And, okay, done. Let's go ahead and click OK. Before I do that, if I decided I wanted to crop it, in previous versions, you didn't have the ability to use the, where's the crop tool? What is, this has happened to me before. We might have to skip it. This has happened to me before. It's always such a mystery, isn't it? Red eye, presets. Anyways, yeah, I'm going to have to get back to you guys on cropping because there should be a crop tool in here and it's disappeared on me before and I'm not sure why. But anyways, I'll click OK. There it is. Command 0. We're back out. I was going to isolate him. I actually think he looks pretty darn good. And still we can see sort of the before and then the after difference. Cool. All right. Yeah, it is pretty, I would say. Sorry, Marsha, I always say Alt key. I don't know why. I did start out, actually no, I started out on a Mac. I'm on a Mac, by the way. So Option/Alt key is what I was using right there, okay? Last one, of course, have fun with this if you want to, using that same methodology of using the camera raw filter, okay? Let's go into some of the creative ones. Since I still have time, rolling through these. Ooh, high contrast detail. Boom, love it. Guess what? Let's just add it to our favorites. I'm really into that one. Warm shadows. Yeah, let's make that a favorite. And I really like the black and white landscape. Let's go ahead and make that a favorite as well. Let me know if you have questions. It's super easy to do, right? Overall, so make your creations, use a photo. You get extra credit if you use your own photo, but feel free to have fun with these. I'm really into the black and white one, so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go to quick export as JPEG, export it out to my desktop. The only problem with quick export as JPEG is it doesn't show the size. So I always have to kind of come over here and just check the size. Because it does have to be under 8 megs if you're going to upload it to Discord. And I really appreciate everybody getting involved right in here, playing around and participating in the current challenges. I just appreciate you participating in these challenges and participating in life. All that good stuff. Petrified. There we go. IED, is that right? Okay, there we go. There's my image. Hopefully you guys like it. Feel free. Quick shout out to some of these as well as I kind of wrap up. I'm down to my last minute, but we have this passport cover people are making. Love it. Let's scroll up. Oh, a little watercolor effect. So we had so much fun using those paint effects as well on photos. So you can see a number of these, creating those paint effects. I think that was like really fun to do yesterday. So a great job. Knit, and there's Biola's. Look at that. Those paint strokes are just gorgeous. All right. Okay, everybody, that is it for me. I'm just going to peruse some of these comments and take a look at some of these fun images and kind of do that on my own time if you don't mind. By the way, I am doing a Photoshop Masterclass tomorrow, so I'll be going from this Daily Creative Challenge right into the Photoshop Masterclass. We're going to be dealing with lighting, so it's going to be a lot of fun. Yeah, and by the way, if you're using Lightroom, great point. Use Lightroom. It's fantastic. It's kind of like Lightroom Light. That's what I think of when I think of good old camera raw filters. So thanks so much, everybody. I appreciate you. Be safe. Be kind to one another. And I'll see you online soon. Thanks so much.